Betty leaned back with a smug smile. Frank, it was just sex. No emotions involved. It didn't mean anything. Frank exhaled slowly, his expression unreadable. Betty, I didn't know whether you were cheating or just out partying, but now you've confirmed it. Thanks for that. His voice was eerily calm. Hey, I'm Frank. I'm 25 years old, and I've been with Betty for 3 years. We got married 9 months ago. If you'd asked me a week ago how things were going, I would have told you our relationship was perfect, built on trust, respect, and all the fundamentals of a solid partnership. We had it all. When we first met, everything was effortless. Betty was vibrant, full of life, and had a natural way of making people feel at ease. She had a close-knit group of girlfriends from university, and they were inseparable. They were loud, a little wild, and always teasing me. They called me Tango because I could hold my own at parties, something Betty found amusing. You know they're harmless, right? She would say, laughing. Just a little crazy sometimes, but it's all in good fun. I never minded. They weren't my friends, but I wasn't the jealous or possessive type. Betty valued her independence, and I respected that. She once joked, I need girl time to vent about how annoying you are, to which I had laughed and teased back, and you tell them I'm too hot for them to handle, right? She rolled her eyes playfully and tugged me away. Since we started dating, the girls' weekend getaways became a routine. Once a month, they'd pack their bags, head off somewhere, and I'd have the house to myself. It was never a big deal. Betty would always ask, is it okay if we go away for the weekend? And I'd always say yes. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? We had only one simple rule for these trips: no wild nightclubs. It wasn't about control or distrust. It was about respect. I don't want you to do anything that makes me uncomfortable, I had said, and she had nodded, agreeing. Same goes for you, she had replied. Deal. Deal, I had said, never thinking twice about it. Last week, she brought up another trip. Frank, she said, stepping into the living room where her friends were sprawled across the couch, giggling over their plans. The girls and I are thinking about going to Lakeview Hotel for the weekend. I looked up from my laptop. Lakeview again? Didn't you just go there a few months ago? Yeah, but it's close, and everyone likes it there. It's only for 2 nights. You won't even notice I'm gone. I chuckled. Hardly notice? Who's going to remind me to eat my vegetables? Betty grinned. If I'm not around, I'll leave you a list. Admit it, you love having the house to yourself. I raised my hands in surrender. Okay. Have fun. Just don't forget the fudge. She leaned in, pressing a quick kiss to my lips. You're the best. And just like that, I let her go. Why wouldn't I? We had been together for years, and she had never given me a reason to doubt her. Sure, her friends were a little more adventurous than she was, but Betty wasn't reckless. At least, that's what I believed. Looking back, I realize I didn't ask enough questions. I was never the type to pry, but maybe I should have been more observant. Her friends always had an air of secrecy about them, whispering and laughing as if they were constantly up to something. I would play along, raising an eyebrow. What are you all plotting now? They would burst into laughter, and Betty would shake her head. Just pranks, Frank. Nothing serious. Don't worry, one of her friends had once said with a wink. We're mostly angels. I had laughed it off at the time. But hindsight is cruel. It taps you on the shoulder and forces you to see everything you ignored before. When Betty packed her bags and left, I didn't hesitate. I kissed her goodbye, told her to have fun, and went back to my routine. I had no reason to doubt her. Until I did. I was sitting on the sofa, mindlessly scrolling through my phone when I saw it, Mia's post. A picture. Betty was there, smiling carefree, surrounded by her friends. But they weren't at a cozy lakeside retreat. They weren't having wine nights or playing board games in their hotel room. No. They were at a strip club. My chest tightened. My mind raced. I wasn't naive, I knew exactly what that meant. It wasn't the club itself that hurt. It was the fact that we had talked about this. We had set clear boundaries. No nightclubs, no strip clubs. Not because of jealousy, but out of mutual respect. And yet, there she was, crossing a line we had both agreed on, laughing like it meant nothing. I stared at the picture for what felt like an eternity, trying to make sense of it. At first, I didn't feel anger. Not immediately. What hit me first was disbelief. A slow, creeping realization that the trust one had in her, so solid, so unwavering, wasn't real. I had trusted her completely. And she had thrown that trust away like it was nothing. The worst part? It wasn't just about the club. It was about everything. The lies. The deception. The fact that she didn't even care enough to hide it properly. And for the first time in 3 years, I questioned everything. I didn't want to confront her right away. I wasn't in the mood to explode and get caught up in a pointless argument where she'd only deny everything. I could already hear her excuses. It wasn't a big deal, or it was just a one-time thing. I wasn't about to fall for that. I wasn't going to let her turn everything around and make me feel like I was the one in the wrong. So, I did what any man in my shoes would do. I decided to fight back, not with words, but with actions. If she could do whatever she wanted, then so could I. I didn't overthink it. I simply booked a trip to Miami with my friends. Once we were there, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wasn't going to party or get swept into anything wild, but I was going to make a statement. I needed to remind myself that I could do whatever I pleased, without worrying about anyone else. I went to a strip club, but I didn't take photos of myself. Instead, I took pictures of her, knowing she would see them. That was exactly the point. I wanted her to feel it. I wanted her to know that I was no longer following the rules while she was free to break them without a second thought. The rest of the trip was spent on the beach with my friends, drinking and enjoying the freedom. I wasn't concerned with Betty or what excuses she'd come up with this time. I needed space. I needed to stop being the one who followed the rules, the one who trusted blindly, while she disregarded everything we had agreed on. When I returned home, I wasn't interested in hearing her explanations. I didn't want to listen to her soothing words, knowing they were just another layer of manipulation. I could already hear her. It didn't mean anything, or it was just a mistake. But I wasn't about to fall for that. I was done pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I checked my phone before Frank came home. My heart dropped when I saw it, a post from him. It was a picture of a strip club, with him standing there, a drink in his hand, as if he had nothing to lose. I couldn't believe it. What was he doing? Did he know? Was he trying to get back at me? I didn't know, but I wasn't going to let him make me feel guilty for it. I had to confront him. When Frank finally walked through the door, I was already waiting for him. The tension was thick between us, an unspoken wall of resentment. Before he could even speak, I blurted out, "Frank, what's going on?" "A strip club." He didn't flinch. He didn't even seem surprised. His eyes met mine with a coldness that sent a chill through me. He was calm, almost eerily so. "Betty, let me make one thing clear," he said, his voice biting. "This isn't about a strip club. This is about you. About your lies. The fact that you went on a trip without telling me." My stomach churned. How did he know? I thought I'd covered my tracks well, but somehow, Frank had found out. I couldn't deny it anymore. "You're such a hypocrite," Frank continued, his tone steady, almost detached. "You cheated on me, but now you want to accuse me of crossing a line? You've been doing it for months, acting like you're some angel." I tried to defend myself, but my words came out weak, barely audible. "That's not what happened," I stammered. "It was just sex. No feelings. Nothing." Frank laughed, but it wasn't a laugh of humor. It was hollow, empty. "Betty, I don't know if you cheated on me or if you just went to a club, but you confirmed it now. Thanks for that." The words stung more than I expected. I couldn't even look him in the eye. All the excuses I had told myself, about how it was just a mistake, how it didn't mean anything, crumbled in that moment. I opened my mouth, desperate to argue. "It was just a momentary lapse," I said, my voice shaking. "It doesn't mean anything." But Frank wasn't listening anymore. He was done. "No matter how you try to justify it, Betty, you cheated on me. And now you're acting like it's nothing. But you crossed the line." My face burned with shame. I tried to deny it again, to tell myself it wasn't as bad as it seemed. But Frank's words cut through the silence like a knife. "That's it," he said, his voice hard. "I trusted you completely. And you made a fool of me. I've had enough." I was stunned. "Wait, is that it? Are you really just going to give up everything?" I was desperate now, the reality of the situation sinking in. Without hesitation, he turned to pack his things. "After everything you've done, you have no right to ask for anything. You better go. I'll file for divorce." I stood there, speechless, unable to process how quickly things had fallen apart. How had we gone from being so in love to this? I couldn't believe how quickly he had made his decision, how resolute he was. Frank didn't hesitate. He didn't even flinch when my family and friends begged him to reconsider. They pleaded with him, saying I had made a mistake, that we could work through it. But Frank wouldn't budge. I saw it in his eyes, the determination to walk away. He was done. I wasn't going to beg. Instead, I did what anyone would do. I left. Out of spite. I surrounded myself with people who wouldn't judge me, people who didn't remind me of what I had lost. We partied, tried to forget everything. At first, it felt liberating, like I was embracing freedom, living life on my own terms. But deep down, I knew it wasn't the same. The laughter didn't fill the void. The people around me didn't matter. Guilt clung to me, lingering in every corner of my mind. I realized too late that I had made an irreparable mistake. I had lost someone who truly cared about me. Frank had left with his dignity intact, while I was left behind, pretending everything was fine when it was anything but. The consequences of my actions were harsher than I ever imagined, and now, I had to face them alone.